Episode 7. We're almost there. The end is in sight. We start the episode with the super fun trial of Ula Syndulla, the general who disobeyed orders and led people to their deaths in order to save the Jedi who already saved herself by choosing not to die while drowning in the ocean for an entire day.
I choose to live.
This totally not corrupt politician puts this show's canon into question.
This report reads like a child's fairy tale. Jedi, false Jedi, star maps, star whales, distant galaxies. Honestly, are we to believe any of it?
Then we have an extensive back and forth over whether or not the things that just happened actually happened. All this to say that the New Republic that the likable characters fought so hard to obtain has already been corrupted within its first 5 years of being established. Super cool. It really makes that whole war feel worthwhile. I give the credit of this scene to the prequel fans. You insist endlessly that your poo doesn't stink, and your voices have been heard, because now the political scenes are back, baby. Suddenly, C-3PO shows up to save the day, and everyone gets a magical expression on their face when they see him. Because we all love C-3PO, right? We always liked him and always treated him with respect. Anyhow, Ula gets bailed out because it gets conveniently revealed that Ula was apparently just pranking everyone by pretending to disobey orders, because in actuality, General Leia ordered her to go on this mission off-screen, and they just kept this information secret from everybody else. For some reason, and the courtroom just accepts this without question and finds her innocent. But this plot twist has a plot twist, because Leia didn't actually give her that order. She just said she did, so that Ula wouldn't get in trouble, and no one suspects a thing.
That makes sense to me.
Meanwhile, Ahsoka herself is still hitching a ride from this whale, and she undergoes some training to kill some time. This is a wise thing for her to do, because she's apparently so rusty that she forgot which part of her lightsaber is the stabby bit. While this is happening, Captain Easter Egg returns to satiate the reference hounds.
General Grievous, Sage Ventress, even Count Dooku.
He's here in the form of an old recorded message, packed full of various Jedi tips and tricks. Ahsoka and Huyang reminisce about how great Anakin was, and this is a little weird, right? Like, I get that they have history and they used to be friends, but this guy killed children, planets, and Ahsoka herself at one point in time. Maybe take some time to admire people that are more deserving. Later, Huyang correctly points out how astronomically stupid this space whale plan is. However, Ahsoka justifies it by smiling.
I would point out that you are assuming the star whales have brought us to the correct galaxy, let alone the same system or even the same planet where Lady Wren was taken.
I think the odds are pretty good.
No, in fact, they're terrible, astronomically terrible.
Well, you should have said something.
I did, but you never...
This is modern Star Wars. Eventually, the space whales reach their destination, which is exactly where Ahsoka wanted to go. Lucky her. But oopsie, there's a surprise minefield. Fortunately, these mines pale in comparison to the great power of the mighty space whale, so naturally, Ahsoka decides that now is a good time to abandon the safety of the space whale, so that she can struggle to avoid the danger herself, and feed us the illusion that something exciting is happening on screen. It's lucky that she did this as well, because the space whales immediately hyperjump away as soon as she parts ways with them. Then some bad guys try to be bad, but they die. Thrawn gets notified of Ahsoka's arrival, and he's like, I knew she would show up. My plan is to do nothing, because she'll still just kill us all no matter what. So instead, we'll just ambiguously be one step ahead of her. We cut back to Ahsoka as she parks her ship and does nothing. Then we cut to Ezra and Sabine as they drive around in these eggs, going who knows where, doing who knows what. This show is so fun. They drop this epic dialogue.
Emperor died.
That's what people say.
Yeah, some people got fooled, but not her. Sabine would obviously know that somehow Palpatine will return, because she's edgy and she keeps her feet on the dash. As they talk, she continues to avoid bringing up the impending Second Civil War that she has been causing because she would still prefer to be happy.
I just want to be happy that I found you. After all this time, can I have that?
Ezra tries to ask where Ahsoka is, but that is not a happy question, so Sabine sits there in awkward silence instead of doing anything remotely productive.
Getting home is kind of important. Yeah, so where is Ahsoka? Is she coming?
This is a really exciting conversation to watch. The evil people stare ominously, then Thrawn uses the witches to find Ahsoka, because his 4D chess move strategy involved purposefully losing her, just so he could immediately search for her again.
Withdraw the fighters, and have them stand by.
Why not allow them to follow?
There's no need to waste our resources. Ahsoka Tano lies hidden within the graveyards. Find her.
You at home may think this is dumb, but it isn't because the writers say Thrawn is smart. Speaking of, the writers then decide that Ahsoka knows where Sabine is now.
I see her.
Something happened. What was it?
I don't know. Feeling.
Then the bad guys reappear to give the illusion of excitement. Captain Face asks Thrawn if they should prepare their defenses, but Thrawn wisely says no, because his genius plan is to throw an easily defeatable batch of stormtroopers at them. So wise, so original. Darth Sana and Darth Eilish are also still in this story, and their master plan is to split up and attack with an easily defeatable squad of bandits. This is a great plan, because it'll pad out the episode to a 40-minute runtime. The bandits attack, and for some reason, the snail people decide to keep themselves in harm's way to follow Ezra and Sabine, despite apparently being peaceful and defenseless.
They're peaceful people.
Peaceful, fine. You didn't mention defenseless.
They are volunteer meat shields, but thankfully their cuteness will compel the writers to never harm them in any way. Eventually they just hide inside their egg ships and fade into the background, as their new purpose in this story is to provide cover in an otherwise open field. Thankfully the eggs are indestructible, so there is never any danger. Isn't that exciting? Ahsoka is on her way to the rescue, and decides to jump out of her moving ship in this very good looking scene. Wow, look at that. Doesn't that just look so good? She's completely fine, by the way. Not a single scratch or dirt stain in sight from all that. She then fights Darth Sana. Again, but then they stop fighting, because something might have actually happened in the story if they didn't. Darth Eilish and the bandits surround Sabine and Ezra. Sabine tries to give Ezra his old lightsaber, but he refuses it because he says it belongs to Sabine now, and he only needs the power of bullshit to succeed.
Take it.
I gave it to you. It's yours now.
At least take a blaster.
No. The Force is my ally.
Let's see him display this amazing new power that he's acquired. Wow, isn't that impressive? He gently pushes them over, so that they tumble onto their butts before getting up and fighting again. Truly, Ezra is a master at his craft. Sabine chooses to fight with her guns, which means we have an unused lightsaber just sitting in her pocket, while Ezra draws this fight out and makes it last way longer by only using his tumble attacks. You'd think that someone who chooses to only fight by using the Force would have the power to grab all enemies at once and send them into the ocean, but no, gently pushing them will give the show a longer runtime. The bandits all get defeated, and now it's 2-on-1 against Darth Eilish, but instead of defeating her, they just stand there and allow her to gain reinforcements. Ezra eventually tries to attack, but Darth Eilish uses his tumble tactics against him. I bet he felt really inconvenienced by that. If only he had a lightsaber. We see some super efficient choreography. Then the two get surrounded by stormtroopers, and the witch is like,
"We got them for sure this time. There's nothing they can do against a few stormtroopers."
We have them.
Darth Eilish orders the stormtroopers to destroy them, but Ezra pulls out the genius maneuver of calling time out, and it actually works.
Destroy them.
Wait!
Darth Eilish then orders them to open fire, and the stormtroopers proceed to stand there and do nothing until Ahsoka makes her super epic entrance.
Fire!
Then they decide to fire into the open air against stationary targets that they had several minutes to aim at, and who are only a couple feet away. They're feeding the meme because stormtroopers can't aim. The best villains are ones that are funny and can't physically harm the heroes, right? That is what made the first film so iconic. This is the genius strategy of Grand Admiral Thrawn at play. He had decades to personally train these soldiers, and this is the result of their brilliant competence. Isn't he such a great villain? Aren't you quaking in your boots just looking at this guy? They do eventually manage to shoot Sabine, but only in her plot armor. Meanwhile, Huyang flies over and does nothing relevant. Ezra eventually takes and uses the stormtrooper's gun, meaning he has no true convictions here, and he could have saved a lot of time by using a weapon from the start.
At least take a blaster.
No. The Force is my ally.
Thrawn then orders a retreat and is like, "Oh, even though our guys got slaughtered, this was actually a success because we distracted them and bought time to prepare for our escape. fear my brilliant strategy, and ignore the fact that if I didn't attack these heroes, they would still just be sitting around and talking, and ignore the fact that there wouldn't even be a conflict if I would just kill my enemies when they were vulnerable, instead of giving them everything they want, while also constantly provoking them into battles that they can easily win. Thrawn is a genius. Darth Eilish then stands there like a lemming while her allies run away.
Grab my hand!
You're not my dad!
Sabine then says she thought Ahsoka died, and gets as annoyed as we are by her absurd plot armor.
I thought you were dead. And miss this reunion?
Let's rewind that for a sec. Sabine believed that Ahsoka died in that fight. She did not cry, she did not show any remorse whatsoever. Instead, she made a deal with the enemy that could result in the resurgence of the Galactic Empire. And instead of telling Ezra any of this information, she went with him on a joyride with the snails, because she literally just wanted to be happy for a while.
Sabine?
Hey, I just want to be happy that I found you.
Sabine is an idiot. Later, they all hold hands and celebrate the possibility of going home. And now, finally, we've reached the last episode. We open with Thrawn, and I just noticed that they painted their Star Destroyer, but they never bothered to fix the holes. Well, anyway, this is part of Thrawn's brilliant strategy, I'm sure. Speaking of, his next genius play is to deploy 2 TIE fighters.
Dispatch 2 TIE fighters if they find their mark. Tell them to engage.
I'm sure they will be very effective. The witch thinks that the Jedi won't be able to stop their escape at this point, but Thrawn is like, nah, they have too much plot armor. The best we can do is to throw out minor inconveniences to slow their charge. Then they agree that she should be one of those minor inconveniences, so they spend an aggressively long amount of time handing her a magic sword.
Take it, sister. If you could please hurry the fuck up, it would be greatly appreciated.
Then we get a nice, long shot of the egg ship scooting around. Even though the Jedi have a ship now, and could fly straight to Thrawn in seconds, they choose to keep a slow pace in order to keep these snails around, because they are cute to look at and might sell some toys. Then we cut to Ezra as he is now building a new lightsaber. So to clarify, he didn't refuse his old lightsaber because he was beyond them and only needed the Force now.
No. The Force is my ally.
No, he just felt like being an unhelpful jackass for a while, which I can actually respect to a certain extent. We get some lore about how Huyang trained Ezra's master and is very old. They don't explain how he ended up in this show, but it's at least some fun trivia. This conversation triggers Sabine, because Ahsoka is master and she is student, and the parallels and such. It's very profound. So much so that she has to run away because she's too edgy to confront emotions. Huyang is a big X-Force fan, which is cool to see. Ahsoka later talks to Sabine about the deal she made with the enemy, and to Sabine's surprise, Ahsoka isn't angry, because she's like, yeah, I understand why you did that because I'm an idiot too, and I make bad decisions all the time. They then talk about training, in which Ahsoka says a lot of fun buzzwords in order to make herself sound wise without actually saying anything at all.
Train your mind, train your body, trust, and the Force.
These writers should work in politics, and again, it's worth pointing out that the resurgence of the Galactic Empire is looming around the corner if these people don't utilize every second they have towards putting a stop to this. Unfortunately, they need to maintain this snail's pace so that Ezra can build an entire lightsaber, while Sabine keeps his old one in her pocket while she uses her guns. Suddenly, the 2 TIE fighters appear and wreck their ship while completely missing the snails, but Ezra and Ahsoka hold it up so that the snails can escape from harm. Look at these amazing pilots. Star Wars is truly a galaxy of clowns. Sabine then kamikazes the 2 fighters and crashes their ship. Everyone is fine, of course, plot armor, but without their ship, they will now have to walk at a snail's pace instead of flying at a snail's pace.
Sorry to state the obvious, but this is gonna slow us down a bit.
Ahsoka, knowing full well that this trio is invincible, decides to attack the Star Destroyer head-on, with no plan whatsoever.
Let's try the front door.
The Star Destroyer launches a full barrage straight down on them, but they have space horses, so it's chill. They then slaughter these stormtroopers, nothing new here. However, there is a fruity little twist, in that the witches turn these fresh corpses into zombies. This intense revelation will mean that our heroes will have to easily slaughter them again. But since they keep coming back, the heroes will have to fight them while slowly waddling backwards until they find a convenient staircase door. An alternate solution would have been to run out of the room as soon as the first fight ended, instead of standing there like lemmings and waiting for these very slow enemies to get up and overwhelm them. But if they did that, we would lose a lot of runtime in this episode. And I do mean a lot. The zombies break through the door while the heroes stand there and wait for them. Then they slap down another convenient staircase door. If only the villains had closed these randomly placed doors beforehand. Thrawn tells the main witch to go die, so she throws her life away by confronting the Jedi in this no-win scenario. If she had fought alongside the stormtroopers, she might have had a chance to kill someone, but oh well. It's 3 against 1, so the Jedi should have no problem cutting her down in record time, and because that would make too much sense, they decide to split up, and Ahsoka fights her alone while the other two run ahead. Genius. Who wants intelligent characters when you can have 2 middle-aged women dancing around with sticks? The Star Destroyer begins to take off, but thankfully for the Jedi, this process takes ages to accomplish, just like everything else in the show. Ezra and Sabine encounter some level 2 stormtroopers, who are flavored with dark chocolate and raspberry filling. Now these two were pre-zombified before the heroes even showed up, so you may wonder how they ended up like that. But don't worry about it. They are large, chunky zombies, which means they are especially tough to kill. If only they had fought alongside the witch and the other stormtroopers. Nah, that would be too dangerous. Someone could actually get hurt if they did that. Sabine insists on using her guns, even though a lightsaber would be far more useful here. Plus, she has worn her helmet for almost 5 minutes, which is far too long, so that thing's gotta go. Ezra is in a situation where he could be easily killed, so in order to avoid that, the writers resort to the cliche of having him get thrown around by the villain, instead of having the villain finish the fight. Powerful storytelling right here. I'm glad they wasted so much time letting Ezra build a lightsaber just so he could immediately drop it. Expectation subverted. Ezra would rather punch and kick this thing because his tumble tactics would actually be too useful here in this high up tower. The one scenario where a little push could go a long way and he doesn't do it. While getting choked into this wall, Sabine finally learns how to use the Force and retrieves her lightsaber. Wow, imagine if you open the fight by doing that. She then puts her lightsaber away so that she can shoot some more. Very effective. But Ezra decides it's time to move on, so they do. The staircase zombies finally catch up with Ahsoka, but teaming up wouldn't be fair. So the witch just stands there and does nothing while the zombies shoot, and Ahsoka escapes. Ezra and Sabine take a long time to jump on this insanely slow Star Destroyer.
Ezra! The longer you hesitate, the harder this gets. Come on!
The stormtroopers take aim, but then they're like, who are we kidding? We're not shooting shit here. Sabine is now a prodigy Force user who can lift a whole person several feet away, when just a lightsaber was tough to move a couple minutes earlier. They kill the stormtroopers that spared them earlier. Super cool move. Then Ahsoka shows up, and the witch wants to turn at fighting again, so the zombies stand there and do nothing. Sabine then stays behind to kill the zombies, while Ahsoka kills the witch. This leaves Ezra alone in the Star Destroyer. Sabine and Ahsoka then run in a straight line away from the zombies, while the zombies miss every shot. Meaning yes, the heroes could have just done this from the start and saved a lot of time. But if they did that, we wouldn't have this super slow finale, so oh well. Oh hey, Hu Yang showed up with the ship, meaning they can catch Thrawn now. But Hu Yang waits until they're halfway through the atmosphere before going full speed.
I am diverting all power to the engines. Now!
So Thrawn just barely gets away, and even though we saw other ships get instantly shredded when they're too close to this galaxy jump, Ahsoka's ship has plot armor, so it doesn't get damaged at all. Thrawn gives Ahsoka a spooky speech about how she's just like her master, and he declares victory before booping away. Darth Eilish stares at these red people, while Darth Sana stares at some mountains. That's how their story ends. Ezra goes home, and Sabine and Ahsoka go back to the snails, where Ahsoka smiles and says that this place is where they need to be.
Ezra is where he needs to be. And so are we.
Whatever that means. They stand around for a long time. Then look who it is, Captain Easter Egg. Where were you during all these other very important events? Will we ever find out? Probably not. And this is the end of Ahsoka Season 1. Wow. What an important and super relevant show. In reaching the end of this series, I feel that we're left with just a couple questions. What does it mean that Thrawn is back? What will Ahsoka and Sabine do now that they're trapped in this other world? What does Anakin have to do with this? Why does Sabine need to be a Force user? Why must she always take her helmet off and always get shot in places where she's bulletproof? Why stab her with a lightsaber if she isn't going to be crippled by it? Why make her punch robots? What does retconning her into being a Jedi add to this world? Why does the New Republic need to be instantly corrupted as soon as they take power? And why did they make it so that Hera, Ula, has to disobey orders in order to get stuff done, while also suffering zero consequences when most other people would get shot for doing such things? Why not just have a united republic? Why did she bring her child to the front lines? Why did they write it so that the child just knows how to use the Force and can teach it to his mother when we were shown very clearly that it's not meant to work that way? Why give these characters 2 to 3-on-1 advantages only for them to split up every time? Why not just have them fight together against equally competent forces, instead of having everyone make the dumbest decisions possible in order to brute force the scene that you want? Why is Huyang here with no explanation? Why the space whales? Why can they travel across galaxies? Why put the progression of your entire plot on a completely blind gamble with no logic or reasoning whatsoever? Why make them leave the galaxy if the new galaxy is no different from the old one? Why not just put Thrawn on a hard to reach planet, the same way you did with Palpatine? Why the snails? Why have them speak the same languages as people from another galaxy? Why have them follow the main characters everywhere? Why make it so that it takes forever for anyone to accomplish any simple task? Why not write fun adventures instead of having your characters sit around and do nothing? Why put Ahsoka in scenarios where she should absolutely be dead if you have no intention of killing her? Why did you make her wake up 3 times in a row? Why is this old man in every single show? Why have false Jedi if they just act like Sith anyway? Why make so many inconsequential fight scenes where nobody dies on either side? Why make zombie stormtroopers if they just act like normal stormtroopers? Why the tumble tactics? Why establish that the fate of the galaxy is on the line if you're going to make your heroes this slow and uninterested? Why set up the big mystery of Thrawn and Ezra's survival if you're just going to reveal them right away? Why make them go missing for so long without having them undergo any significant changes? Why reveal them so soon if they're just going to sit around and do nothing for most of the show? Why have him free Sabine from captivity if he wants her dead? Why send her to Ezra if you want them both dead? Why alert Ezra to your plans if you don't want him to know your plans? Why antagonize Ahsoka into finding and attacking you if she would otherwise just sit there and do nothing? Why did you put a face on the stormtrooper? Why does this show exist? Why did you make any of this? Just why? This is a show that is uniquely problematic in that this production can barely be considered a fluent story. It's difficult to put into words, but the best way to describe it is to say that this show has no soul. It has no purpose for its existence, other than to fill a time slot in Disney's production schedule. Nothing within this show means anything. There is no theme, there is no lesson being taught, there is no deeper commentary to be had beyond the surface level. The heroes don't succeed because they are smart, brave, strong, or good. They are none of those things. They simply succeed by existing. It doesn't matter what actions they take. They can hop inside a whale's mouth for no reason and they will end up exactly where they need to be. It doesn't matter how skilled they are at anything. It doesn't matter if there is any danger present whatsoever. They simply do things and succeed. That is the show. They can ride horses directly under a Star Destroyer's bombardment. They can drown for hours. They can get shot. They can kamikaze their ship. They can fall off a cliff. They can get impaled by lightsabers, and none of it will matter. They don't survive thanks to any actions, preparations, training, or even luck. They survived just because some writer wanted it to be that way. The same goes for the antagonist. Thrawn doesn't escape thanks to his brilliant strategy, nor any particularly great effort. He escapes just because. There is no logic to his plans. He doesn't make any plans. His method of fighting is to just send wave after wave of bodies at his enemies. Then when they all die, he'll come up with some elaborate excuse as to why that was a good outcome. He is no different than any other Imperial leader, nor are his stormtroopers any more competent than their peers. The success of his escape is completely arbitrary. Any alternative ending could have transpired in the show's finale, and each different outcome would be just as reasonable as what we got, because what we got was made with no reason. These showrunners are just killing time. This is not a real show. This is an illusion, one that was manufactured for the sole purpose of tricking you into looking at it for as long as possible, just in hopes that you will waste all these hours of your life boosting their watch time numbers. And that's all there is to it. That is why everything moves at the slowest pace possible. That is why this show exists.